Oh my gosh. Did you see Sandy at the gym? She tried to exercise and she almost passed out. This is true, y'all. I started my fitness journey today. I could see my vision going out. It's like, oh, I need to sit down. I need to lie down. Electrolytes. It actually seems like I have boobs. I do not have any of that. If it's your first time here, welcome. I'm Xanthi, the Feral Academic, and welcome to the Authentic Academic Movement, where we are feral, honest, and anti-bullshit. Most people feel like gossip is bad. However, it can be very useful and powerful depending on what type of gossip it actually is. Academia is gossipy as hell. When I first got here to my university, I would hear gossip about people so much. Now, we do not want to participate in gossip that is very harmful and punching down. Like, oh my God, did you hear she failed her Viva? That's harmful. What does that serve anyone? If it's coming from a place of had a difficult time with her Viva, maybe you should check in with her, see how she's doing for support. It really depends on the situation, because sometimes you shouldn't even be sharing news that's not yours to share. You have to really think about your relationship with the person and what the intentions are and how are they going to feel about it. But the history of gossip. This video is inspired by an article that I came across called Academic Gossip and Artisanal Bullshit. And this is by the Thesis Whisperer, written by Professor Inger Mewburn, Director of Researcher Development at the Australian National University. It's a wonderfully written article, so relevant. Definitely check it out. I will link it in the description below. In history, the word gossip derives from the Old English term godzib, meaning godparent or spiritual kin, which evolved by the 1600s to specifically refer to women who assisted at childbirth. These gossips were typically close female friends, relatives, or neighbors who provided emotional and physical support during labor in the postpartum period. Over time, it's been connected to misogynist ideas of mostly women that do it. It's like men gossip too, but of course, they just call it debriefing. Some of my friends who are the biggest gossips are men. I am breaking down what this article talks about. Catherine Waddington's definition of gossip is tool to entertain, supply social information, and maintain group norms. It breaks down into 3 areas of navigation, prediction, and protection. A lot of the time, as we know, it can be very dangerous because you can ruin someone's reputation, especially if it's not true. Gossip is a way for you to be aware of who to avoid, who steals ideas, not supportive of students. As a university student, you want to get like feedback on these professors, classes, or anything of the like, and you will find out very quickly who is a little bit more than what they present themselves to be. I find that academia equally has a problem with promoting people who are problematic and not addressing the systemic issues against women or marginalized researchers that are not, basically, if you're not a white, straight man, you're going to have issues. So with gossip, it can be very helpful to know who to be watching out for or who's great. I mentioned this in another video, but there's a particular academic, actually more than one, sadly, both men. A lot of people have been talking about, yeah, he made me uncomfortable. Yeah, he did this and he's been doing that to several people, targeting international students. That is the type of gossip that we need because it is protective, it is sharing. It's just a shame that the academic system is not built in a way that protects these people. A lot of the time I'll see they have a great reputation. They're getting promoted. Please take a look at the people you are working with, hiring, letting into your university. Now that I think about it, I've been really reflecting on the systemic issues in well-being support and mental health, and this is connected to that as well. When we are interviewing people to be a part of the university community, we're only looking at their accolades, how they are on paper, how successful they are. But what we are not doing is checking on their character. I feel like that should be one of the most important things we are doing when we are letting people into communities where there's a lot of people at risk. I mean, and that's every community, right? We need to be more focused on letting in people that are considerate, kind, and not preying on women. On the other end of it too, there are people of really all genders, etc., that can be extremely problematic. At the end of the day, whatever gender you are, whatever background you come from, etc., there's going to be problematic people. But what can we do at the beginning to have these situations prevented? I'm getting a little bit off topic now, so let me get back to gossip. I am neurodivergent, so this is an interesting thing that she mentions in the article. She reports that many autistic academics report confusion, moral discomfort, or exhaustion around gossip. There's a research gap in neurodivergence and gossip, so there's not a lot of information right now. And neurodivergent folks use the N node, which is I'll listen, but I won't pass it on. This sounds very much like me because I remember growing up when I was in high school. Gossip's popular, especially when you're younger. I always felt uncomfortable. Why are you sharing this with me? I don't think I'm supposed to know it. And my family were also like, no, doubly drilled into my brain. It was only when I was in adulthood that I realized the value of gossip in the positive way where you're sharing information. That can mean like, are you getting paid the same as the other colleagues that are working just the same duties as you are? Is someone getting treated unfairly, but you can do something about it or raise issues about it? There needs to be a lot of discernment though when it comes to hearing gossip and processing it and what you do with that. This is involving people's lives. There would be rumors, which means uncertainty, friendly chat, non-person topics, storytelling can shade into gossip, and whinging, I'm so British now, bonding through shared suffering. Gossip can weave into all of these areas. So with great knowledge comes great responsibility, as the academic Spider-Man said. When you receive gossip and you feel like it's the negative kind, this is where you have to stand your ground. This is tricky because gossip can be a way for people to bond and socialize. If you reject them, they might be hostile. They'll be like, oh, you think you're better than us? Be tactful in how you say this. You can redirect the conversation or just not respond to it. I remember when I was in middle school, there was a girl. I'm just gonna call her Ariel. I'm thinking about The Little Mermaid. A little girl named Ariel. She's not at the lunch table, but there's a bunch of girls that I'm sitting with who I don't really know that well, because this was the time where you just had to line up in a row and just sit where you ended up. They're talking about Ariel and they're like, oh my God, I think she's a lesbian. And they just kind of like tried to validate each other by being like, oh my God, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then they got to me and I know Ariel, like she was an acquaintance, like kind of a friend, kind of a neighbor. I was like, this ain't right. And so when they came to me expecting me to agree with them, I was just like, well, from what I've gathered about her, I don't really care like who she's interested in. I mean, she's never hit on me. The whole table went silent on me. That's all I remember. I don't know what happened afterwards, but I didn't even know those girls that well. That was one way of me kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to participate in this negativity. And also, it wasn't true. She wasn't even a lesbian. You must also avoid being the leaker of these negative things. So like the girl that was like, oh my God, did you hear she was a lesbian? That's the leaker. It's like, what was your purpose in leaking that information? It doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help Ariel. Gossip can also be powerful for academic institutions because academia is a very powerful structure. A lot of us students and even the staff and people who work there, like we don't have a lot of power at all. When you are in a system that constantly works against you, and I've been so disillusioned with the education system, I am so sorry. Like there is never going to be any kind of university that is going to value you over the money that they are getting in from donors or whoever. But I'm just saying you have to protect yourself. And this is why gossip can be good, because you are hearing the ways of what is going on. And what's the way that people control you? Lack of knowledge. If students band together, or whoever, if you're a professor and this institution is shitting on you, you want to talk with other professors about this. It's like, this is the way that gossip is power.
My microphone died. Sorry. Gossip is power because you are sharing knowledge that the institution doesn't want you to know. And so this will give you protection and shortcuts. I will promise you that they will try to keep you in the draft zone. I call it the draft zone because it's just sitting there. They'll say that they'll send things up to be taken care of, but it's just in their draft zone. They'll say, yes, we'll handle this. Feel free to send in a report. And then they'll leave it in their drafts or even throw it away in the bin. In that case, this is where gossip and rising together is helpful. Power in numbers. I really do believe in that. If one student complains about an issue, the university don't give a shit. But they will care when there's like 20 of you or 30 of you complaining. However, they'll just ignore you more. But it'll take longer for them to ignore it. What I gather is that if students want actual change, you have to either notify the press or get someone or several people who are donors and make them aware. Because the only way that universities care is if their money stops coming in or the people who are providing them money are upset with them. But you're just a number. You're just another income for them. And guess what? Once you leave, same thing with the next student. It's complicated because it's like we're students, but we're still part of the system. And I can see where former students who end up professors and they're even more part of the system. So it's complicated. I'm not saying that everyone who is at the university or every professor is, the ones who are like dismissing people, but I'm just saying that like it's a top-down issue and it's a systemic issue. I really hope the younger generation, why am I talking like this? I am the younger generation because I'm still a student. If anyone has the courage to continue a life in academia, I would hope when they reach like a very powerful position, they will be the one to put a stop, or at least try to put a stop. So there'll be small movements where students and staff and professors can actually feel like they're being heard and respected. I do not know how people survive in this environment for decades. That is my spiel on gossip in academia. All is to say, use the tool of gossip for good. Be wise with it. It's, again, I'm going to bring in the Spider-Man metaphor. With great knowledge comes great responsibility. And you can be Spider-Man or Peter Parker and use that info wisely to help others, to help yourself, to fight against the structures of academia that harm others. Or are you going to be like the Green Goblin? Are you going to use that knowledge to hurt others, to pass on information that other people don't really need to know? So, thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe if this resonated and you want to keep in touch, and hit like if you'd like. I am sending you so much love, hugs, and legal drugs. Hope to see you in the next video, and feel free to leave a comment below on your experience about gossip in academia. Have a beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening. Love you so much. Bye.